Welcome back to This Day Live, the Sunday talk show here on Arise News Channel. I'd like to welcome today's panelists. With me are Professor David Awurawo, Professor of International Relations and Strategic Studies at the University of Lagos, Jide Ologun, legal practitioner, national development advocate, and fellow, Institute of Leadership Coaching and Strategy, as well as Yemi Adamolekun, Executive Director, Enough is Enough. Now, 5 men deported from the United States to Eswatini have been held in indefinite solitary confinement, according to the Eswatini government. The detainees, originally from Vietnam, Jamaica, Cuba, Yemen, and Laos, were convicted of serious crimes, including murder and child rape. U.S. Homeland Security described them as individuals so uniquely barbaric, their home countries refuse to accept them. They are currently housed at a maximum security facility, though officials declined to confirm the exact location for security reasons. Eswatini says it hopes to deport them with help from the United Nations International Organization for Migration, but no timeline has been set. IOM says it hasn't been contacted, but it's open to assisting. Rights Group warned prolonged solitary confinement can lead to severe psychological harm and may amount to torture. In the meantime, South Africa this past week called on the G20 countries to show global and cooperative leadership to tackle challenges including rising trade barriers as the club's finance chiefs met under the shadow of President Donald Trump's tariff threats. The G20, which emerged as a forum for cooperation to combat the 2008 global financial crisis, has for years been hobbled by disputes among key players that have been exacerbated by Russia's war in Ukraine and Western sanctions on Moscow. Whole South Africa, under its presidency's motto, Solidarity, Equality, Sustainability, has aimed to promote an African agenda with topics including the high cost of capital and funding for climate change action. Meanwhile, relative calm returned to Sweida, a predominantly Druze city in southern Syria this Sunday, following the withdrawal of Bedouin fighters, as announced by the Islamist-led government. Local residents reported a quiet morning with no sounds of gunfire, marking a stark contrast to recent clashes. A Druze community source also confirmed that peace had largely been restored across most parts of the city. The de-escalation comes amid increased pressure from the United States, which has urged all parties to end hostilities and protect civilians. The recent flare-up had raised concerns of a wider sectarian conflict in the already war-ravaged countries. Well, for his thoughts on those foreign stories, I'm now being joined here on This Day Live by Dr. Suleiman Barnabas, an Associate Professor of Criminology and Security Studies and Pioneer Provost of the Nigerian College of Forensic and Fraud Investigators. Good to have you join me on This Day Live. Good afternoon, Dr. Barnabas.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you indeed. 3 important international stories from what I've read there, and I'm sure, with your background and inclination, these are stories that you have followed closely. But let's start with the third country program of the U.S. government. Of course, many people will say of Mr. Donald Trump, which we have seen in what has happened a bit in Sudan, but lately in Eswatini, where 5 migrants who are said to be criminals have been deported to that country. None of them, as you know, is from Eswatini. None is even from Africa. From Jamaica, from Laos, from other countries. But then here we have the American government say that because the countries where they come from do not want them back because they are so bad as criminals, what America has done is to say, we'll take them to a third country where they will be isolated. Now, as you know, all over Africa, particularly in Eswatini, there is a huge fury as to the propriety of what is going on. What are your thoughts, given that this is something that we had seen, a bit with the British government when they proposed, and it passed through Parliament, that those that are rejected as immigrants will be sent to Rwanda, Kigali in Rwanda. But of course, the difference at that time was that Rwanda as a country will be paid heavy sum to have those that the UK government does not want in their country. Now we now have the American government saying that those that they can't deal with, even though they are criminals, should be sent to other parts. How do you see this? And what should be the concern, not just of the Eswatini government or the Southern African government, but the government entirely of Africa?
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate. I mean, this exposes, the mindset of Donald Trump. And of course, the American state, where you think that having dumped goods in Nigeria, I mean, in Africa, so to say, goods that may have been considered bad over there, they dump them in Africa. Now we are seeing a new trend where human beings, in quotes, that have been condemned, that they consider as criminals, terrorists, they don't fit into the American society, but they should be sent to Africa. I think that this is unfortunate, it's unacceptable, it is hypocritical, and I think that not just African countries or the African people, the whole world must resist this kind of imperialist, policies of the Trump presidency.
All right, these are people that even the Homeland Security spokespersons have described as depraved monsters. That's what, that's how they were described. Depraved monsters. Those are the people that they have been sent, to Africa. But then Nigeria should also be worried, given the revelation, as you know, that came from the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Tuga, who said that the reason why America seems to be unhappy with Nigeria, which led to the review of the visa regime from 5 years to 3 months, a visa being given to Nigerians visiting America if you're not immigrating. That the whole reason has to do with Nigeria's refusal to accept this third country arrangement from America. We haven't heard any denial from the United States, and the Nigerian government has also not come out to clarify, to say, oh, maybe the foreign affairs minister is wrong. It stays as how he has put it. What do you think should be in the minds of the Nigerian government and then the African Union at this point, given that if it succeeds with Eswatini, the likelihood that other Africans who might not have the sort of courage, other African countries like Nigeria, might cave in? What then happens to the independence and the sovereignty of African countries? What are your thoughts on those?
Yeah, I know for a fact that we have a foreign minister in the person of Tuga, who is very experienced, courageous, and working with the president. They've rejected the offer to send those criminals, those that the U.S. has described as criminals, to this country. I mean, of course, Nigeria will not accept that. We are not in a position to, take people that the U.S. are unable to handle, people that the U.S. consider as security threat to their country. You are sending them to Nigeria so that they can become security watch here. So I salute the courage of the Nigerian government in rejecting that decision of the U.S. It's not only Nigeria, South Africa also rejected it, and there are other nations that are unwilling to accept. Unfortunately, Donald Trump has also used the carrot and stick method, bullying countries to so that they can accept that situation as destinations for these so-called security threats in the U.S. So the Nigerian government has made the right decision. I salute their courage, And under no circumstances should Nigeria accept to take American citizens, because some of them, I understand, even have their papers, or people that Donald Trump is not happy with, people that the government of the US consider as criminals. Bringing them to Nigeria will be a security threat to our country, and of course we should never allow that under any circumstances. Unfortunately, countries like Eswatini and some of these other countries, have been promised a whole lot of stuff by Donald Trump. Some of them have been induced with money, and they seem not to be willing to reject that offer, and that's why we see what's happening. It is unfortunate that the United Nations, the United Nations, the European Union, and also, of course, the African Union, and even ECOWAS, in the context of the West African countries that are already in talks with the US, are not condemning this thing openly, coming against it, making a position paper against this policy that reinforces the imperialist, disposition of Donald Trump towards Africa.
But for how long do you think that poorer and smaller African countries can hold out if there is financial inducement? The UK government didn't hide it a couple of years ago when they said that this is a deal, this is a transaction between the UK and Rwanda. We will take a short break now and we'll return in go time to continue the program, This Day Live. Welcome back to This Day Live, the Sunday talk show, and I'm still on with Dr. Suleiman Barnabas. I hope you can hear me clearly now, Dr. Barnabas.
Yeah, very well.
Okay.
Very well.
Okay. I was asking you before we went on that short first break, how long do you think that smaller and poorer African countries can hold out to, given the fact that there could be financial inducement, like we had between the UK and the country of Rwanda a few years ago? And what the UK said at that time was very clear, that this is a transaction between the UK and Rwanda. We will take migrants that we do not want in the UK to their country, but they will be paid for it. And now Eswatini is saying that they do not even know at what point they will be able to send back those migrants that have been taken to their countries. If America was unable to return those people to their countries of origin, are we sure that Eswatini will be able to do that on their own? And at the end of the day, will it be that what it will end up to will be that there is a financial inducement to say, deal with them as you want, keep them for as long as necessary, we will pay you for it because America doesn't want it? What will be the message here? And how many countries do you think will be able to survive or act in the manner that Nigeria has acted? Showing courage, showing that we're a sovereign nation, and that even if we have to suffer a few consequences, we won't kowtow to what is not acceptable.
Yes, it demands courage on the part of the leadership of those countries concerned. It's not about whether there's a promise for monetary reward. The fact is that there's been an ongoing transaction between leaders who have accepted, nations who have accepted to collect those that the US has described as criminals. So monies have exchanged hands. They paid over $6 million to El Salvador to collect some of those Venezuelan deportees. And there's no doubt that Eswatini has actually collected money, their leadership. And I'm happy that the Nigerian government has rejected that. It is better for us not to get 5 years visa than to get 5 years visa in exchange for deporting people that will become security threats to our country. If the US considers these people as unhelpable, as people who are security threats to the US, why then should they bring them to Nigeria or any other country in Africa? Eswatini is less than the state of New Jersey, which is one of the smallest states in the US. Nigeria as a whole is just, a little bit bigger than the state of Texas. So why should the US, for whatever reason, choose to bring people that they consider, with all their intelligence, with all their military might, they consider these people as threats to their national security? Why should they be sending it to Africa? Why should they be sending them to Nigeria? It means that maybe they want to export, terrorism to our country. It's unacceptable. Nigeria will not tolerate it. Nigerians will challenge it, will resist it, just as other countries like South Africa have said no to that policy. And I encourage, that the African Union, ECOWAS, and other regional bodies, including even the United Nations, should truly pressure US, Donald Trump, to stop this, imperialist disposition towards Africa. Even beyond the security threat, it is actually demeaning for you to consider Africa as a dumping ground for people that you consider as unhelpable, people that you have described as terrorists. So under no circumstances, including threats, inducement, should Nigeria or any African country that is patriotic and nationalistic should accept this bullying, these imperialist policies of Donald Trump and the American people towards Africa.
Well, but Dr. Barnabas, you know that a restriction or denial of visas will not be the only thing that America will use to want to, arm twist African countries. You know that he will want to use tariffs, as he's been using. As a matter of fact, as you know, is one of the major issues that, has beclouded the G20 Finance Chiefs Summit holding in South Africa. How do you think that African countries and African leaders should deal with additional arm twisting that might come from Mr. Trump and the American government, given the fact that the big African countries like Nigeria, like South Africa, are saying that, hey, we won't take that. We're also sovereign. Using tariffs, how much of that do you think that African government can withstand? Then I also wanted to know your thoughts on the recent bombing in Syria by Israel. It looks like Israel just decides to fight any war that it chooses. Thankfully, America has said that there is a ceasefire, and that yes, both parties have agreed to at least calm down for now. But then for how long can we trust that Israel will not wake up again tomorrow and choose where to bomb? Well,
with respect to your question as to how long should Africa be able to resist, the arm twisting strategies of the American president, including tariffs and all, let me say it clearly that whatever it will take, Africa must resist this inhumane, this ungodly policy of sending people that they consider a security threat to Africa. Whatever it will be, is a red line for us, and African countries, African leaders must be serious about this, whatever it will take. If it includes invasion, they should resist it. So tariff is not even enough. Including invasion, whatever it will be, Africa should not allow itself to become a dumping ground for people that the US has actually described as security threat to their own country. Because those people also, when they come to Africa, Africa is not going to change them. So for no reason, whatever inducement or threat, that's why I say whether the carrot or the stick, whatever strategy that Donald Trump will use to enforce that policy, Africans must reject it. Our regional bodies must come out, all our leaders must come together and say no to it. Donald Trump will not spend the next 5 years as president of the US. This policy is not popular among Americans. And so I believe that it may, whatever the situation, whatever the suffering, whatever the consequences, after the Donald Trump presidency, this policy will be reversed. That's as relates to dumping criminals in African continent. Now, as to the invasion of Syria by Israel, the attack by Israel on Syria because of the Jewish community and, of course, the conflict that is sectarian in nature, is that this is not the first time. You see, nations, sign treaties. They have interests, they have friends, they have historical alliances, and even with biological implications in terms of biological affinities. And I think the Druze community and Israel historically have, been, there for themselves. If you look at the Israeli military, a whole lot of what you have as the military of Israel today has the people from the Jewish community. And so they are well integrated. And if you look at the occupiers of the Golan Heights, which Israel seized from Syria, a lot of the occupants there, they are from the Jewish community or the sect. So Israel sees the interest of the Jewish community as its own interest. So they are playing the big brother role here. Remember that some years back, Turkey, invaded Cyprus for similar reasons. So it's not a new thing, and we are happy that the US and some other countries or other nations have intervened, and there seems to be ceasefire at the moment. I hope that it's tackled at that level so that it does not escalate. But it's not a new thing. It has happened before, and it may still happen if the Israelis feel that the Syrian military is taking advantage of, is taking side with the Bedouin sect to attack the Jewish community. Right. So these are realities of international politics.
Very well said, Dr. Suleiman Barnabas. I want to thank you for joining me on This Day Live today, the Sunday Talk Show. Thank you indeed.